This HTV is delivering to the International Space Station more than 4 tons of supplies, both pressurized and unpressurized. 51% of that is spare parts, 24% of that is food, 10% is science experiments, 8% crew supplies, and 7% is water. On the far right-hand side, that is the propulsion module of the HTV. That is where the engines and the fuel are stored. There's an avionics module that is right next to it. And then there's 2 major sections starting from the left. The far left is the pressurized portion of the HTV. That is the part that will actually be berthed with the station. There's a hatchway that the crew is going to be opening up on tomorrow, which that is due to take place at about 6:30 a.m. Central Time, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And they will spend the next several days retrieving all the different cargo that is inside of that and storing it inside the station itself. There in the middle, you can see the unpressurized portion. There is an exposed pallet that is stored there that has 2 major portions of cargo that are stored on the outside of it. One of them is a flex hose rotary coupler that will eventually be stored on the outside of the station's structure. That is a part of the ammonia cooling system that circulates on the outside of the station's structure. That flex hose rotary coupler allows that ammonia to be transferred out to the large radiators as they circulate around the station's structure. Down below HTV is the Atlantic Ocean as the space station and this cargo craft fly together at an altitude of about 223 miles. You can also see a good shot of all the different solar panels around HTV. There's 57 in total. There's 20 panels on the upper part of the payload canister, the pressurized portion of that. There are 23 panels on the unpressurized portion. There are 8 solar panels on the avionics module and the propulsion module down there at the bottom where the engines are. There are 6 panels located there.
Okay, Megan, I'd like to know if you're okay with our corridor report or you like another one.
And that's a good report, Paolo. We do not require another one. BVO is just running the numbers to ensure that you'll be within tolerance and the capture volume. Stand by for that feedback.
Copy, thank you.
Once again, this is an over-the-shoulder view of the onboard screen that the crew is monitoring as HTV continues to close in to a point of about 10 meters or 33 feet away from the International Space Station. You can see that large box. That is where the HTV needs to stay within as it makes this final approach. If you look very closely, you can also see the outline on the screen there of the predict of where HTV should be. So Paolo Nespoli is calling down to the team here in Houston, letting them know the actual position of the HTV as it continues to close in to a distance of about 10 meters. Here inside Mission Control, the visiting vehicle officer who is sitting right beside right behind the flight director is continuing to give updates of the position of HTV. It's about 22 meters away at this point, which is about 72 feet.
Go ahead, Megan.
Paolo, we'd like to request that at approximately 15 meters, if you could make one more call down specific to each camera, the mast camera and the starboard lower outboard camera.
Copy, will go.
As part of the HTV's proximity operations system, there is what is called a rendezvous sensor, or RVS. This is a small sensor that is firing lasers at targets that are located on the outside of the Kibo laboratory. That is how the HTV knows how far away from the International Space Station it is. All of those are fed into a rack that is located inside the Kibo laboratory. And that gives the crew and the ground teams exact information of where HTV is located and its movement. During this part of its flight, the HTV's speed is anywhere between 1 meters to 10 meters per minute. So it's a fairly careful approach as it gets close to this huge international space station. Once it gets to about the 15-meter point, the crew is going to call down with another report of how things are lining up with what is expected of HTV versus where it actually is. Its final stopping point is going to be a distance of 10 meters or 33 feet. This is where it will be inside what is known as the capture box. This is where Katie Coleman will take over operations of the station's robotic arm to reach out and grab on to a grapple fixture on the outside of HTV. And then she will begin the process of maneuvering HTV around to line it up with the bottom side of the Harmony node. That is the ultimate destination for HTV later on this morning.
We're ready to copy.
So camera 37 MBS, the white strobe is within the crowbar corridor limits. Vehicle size matches the vehicle outline. White strobe position is about a third of the diameter starboard of the strobe tracker, and strobe tracker position is about slightly aft of the crowbar corridor center. How copy for 37?
We copy all for 37.
And camera 3, the white strobe is within the crowbar corridor limit. Vehicle size matches the vehicle outline. White strobe is about a third of a diameter forward of the strobe tracker, and the strobe tracker position is slightly aft, slightly starboard of the crowbar corridor center.
Paolo, we copy all. We appreciate the detailed call, and that is consistent with everything we're seeing, so we're happy. Thank you.
HTV and the International Space Station continuing to head over Africa. That is the Nile River there coming into view. These two spacecraft are going to be flying over parts of the Sudan, Ethiopia, and Somalia as they head out over the Indian Ocean. It's a fairly remarkable view here from the end of the station's robotic arm as HTV begins to rise from down below it. As we mentioned, the HTV is going to be holding at a distance of 10 meters, which is about 33 feet. This is the point at which Katie Coleman One of the flight engineers for Expedition 26 will begin to fly that arm out toward the HTV, and we'll begin the process of grappling it. That will occur in the 8 a.m. Central Time hour, and of course we'll have live coverage of all of that here on NASA TV. This is Mission Control Houston. As you can see, we've lost our video coverage of the International Space Station. We're not going to pick it back up until about 5:52 a.m. Central Time. So we may not actually have video of the actual capture. But this is a live view outside of the Scuba Control Center, which is just outside of Tokyo, Japan. The team there is watching very diligently as their cargo craft arrives at the International Space Station and following along with the progress of the Expedition 26 crew. The visiting vehicle officer here inside Mission Control is confirming to Flight Director Ron Spencer that we should be arriving at the hold point in 2 minutes. This will be 10 meters away from the International Space Station. This will be the final hold point for HTV, as it will stay there for a bit. And that is when the crew will begin to use the station's 58-foot robotic arm to reach out and latch on to HTV. This is animation of all the events that have taken place over the last hour and a half or so as HTV approached the International Space Station from down below it. As we mentioned, there was a series of engine burns over the last several days as HTV fine-tuned its course toward the orbiting complex. It first held at 250 meters away from the International Space Station and then went up to a distance of 30 meters. It is now about to hold at 10 meters or 33 feet. And that is when that arm will be used to reach out and grab onto it and fly it the rest of the way in toward the bottom of the Harmony node. That is where it will stay for several days. It is going to be relocated on February the 18th. It'll be moved to the top of the Harmony node. This is to get it out of the way for the upcoming STS-133 mission.
102.
Houston Station, capture point hold confirmed. Grapple fixture is within the capture volume on both cameras' views.
We copy all. Thank you.
Expedition 26 flight engineer Paulo Nespoli there confirming with the team here in Houston that the capture point has been reached by the HTV. This is 10 meters away from the station. And the team also confirming that HTV is lined up in the exact position that it needs to be in and is expected